So welcome, Marie, to Body Victory Diaries. Thank you for joining me.
Welcome, and it's nice to see you too.
Yes, nice to see you. So Marie, you are a life coach, but also run your own mental health charity, Depression Changes Mind. Is there anything to add to that?
There's a few caps I wear. I'm involved with a few steering groups and forums and stuff in the borough. Most of them
of Tower Hamlets.
Yes, of Tower Hamlets. Most of them are kind of around the mental health subject. So there's a SEND group that runs for parents in Tower Hamlets, and I'm the mental health lead in that. I work alongside PAMS with a parent participation group, and a few other bits and pieces that I do. And volunteer for the local night shelter, homeless night shelter, and bits and pieces. So
amazing.
Keep myself busy.
Yeah, definitely. So how are you coping at the moment with everything that's going on? Are you, like everyone else, finding this it's up and down, or you feel like
completely up and down? And so I've myself struggled with my mental health over the years, and when this first happened, I was fine when it first happened, and then I kind of started having a few rocky days. And for me, I know my signs now when I have bouts of depression, etc. And it scared me, because I thought, oh my goodness, this is like a time where I really could go into this. And I kept checking in with myself and kind of writing a diary to make sure that I was kind of keeping track of how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and what I'm doing for myself as well, good health wise. And I've realized that actually I'm on a roller coaster. Like a couple of days I might be quite quiet, quite inwards, not wanting to kind of do all of these videos and be on house party and join groups of chatting, and then other days I feel fine to do that. And I think actually what I've seen around me, lots of people are similar in that it's a bit of a roller coaster, but best thing for me to do, and that I've advised others to do, is go with it. Just ride your roller coaster. And
I think at the moment, because we're always used to understanding everything completely and knowing the end product and categorizing things, and I think at the moment it's literally just you can't know where this is going, you can't know what the outcome is, and you can't know what the lessons are. You just have to take it as it comes, like you said, ride the roller coaster. So it's like we're in the kind of a lot of people are processing right now.
Absolutely. And I think also we as humans like to be in control of our lives and in control of what's happening, and really kind of, and actually this isn't a time where we can do that. I mean, there are certain things we can take control of, but they're not usually the things that we're day to day taking control of. We're at work normally and taking control of our schedules and who we're working with and what we're doing, and etc. And now we're having to be at home, and actually, I mean, personally, it's been a real kind of eye-opener to spend so much time at home and with loved ones as well, with family. And I'm grateful for my family around me, but it's also really tough. Like, there are days that you don't want to be in a house full of 4 people that you've been in the house with for a good 6 weeks now. But
So one of the things that you mentioned was you've been journaling. So is that a tool that you recommend if like people use, and why?
Absolutely. I think for me, I'm able to process things as I'm writing them down, and perhaps if I read them back. So sometimes we're kind of caught in a whirlwind, and we feel angry about something, and once you start writing it, you can then process it and realize that actually sometimes the thing that you think you're angry about or anxious about or whatever, it's not that, and actually it could be something really different. And I think for me that's definitely helpful when I write, and when I read it back to myself I can kind of find things in that, but also I think it's really helpful for me to have sorry, you might get background noise here with the traffic outside. I also find that if I feel nervous about my mental well-being, just keeping track of what I've done in the day, perhaps how much I've slept, how much I haven't slept, what my mood has been generally, how anxious I've felt, and just kind of keeping track of those things really helps. Like when you look back over the week, you think, oh my goodness, so, you know, I'm not doing very well, but actually sometimes you're quite harsh with yourself, and when you look at what you have done, you realize that actually you're doing pretty well, especially in these circumstances where it's something that's very unknown to us.
Yeah, so that's kind of a practical way of looking at your situation from a bigger perspective, and because I guess when you're emotional, we're not as practical, so we can't see things objectively. So it's just everything's a mix of things, and there's just an overwhelmed feeling. So for me, I guess that's where things like life coaching are really helpful, because you have an outsider person looking at things in a more objective way, and giving you a more practical approach to something that's can seem quite mushy and confusing.
Yeah.
And that's some element of taking back some amount of control, if you can.
Control, yeah, ways. That's right, yeah. And also, I guess part of life coaching is almost like that diary back to you, because, you know, life coaching is just kind of repeating what you're saying almost, and allowing you to reflect on that, because sometimes we talk and we don't hear ourselves, and you know, we can use lots of perhaps negative language about ourselves, or like I said, being quite harsh with yourself, and just redirecting it into where you want to go with things, rather than kind of, you know, those spirals that we can get ourselves in and get quite stuck in it, all be a bit mushy, like you're saying, and not make much sense. It can kind of clear a pathway for you.
Yeah, and I suppose having that other person for me is like an anchor. If you go back to that same person every week, they're your anchor, that to keep pulling you back, like this is it, this is important, this is what we need to do, this is, because if I am just left to my own devices, I won't give myself an hour necessarily to really look at this stuff, or, you know, that's why I feel, and it's the same with, like, I would do it with exercise for sure, because that's what I'm passionate about, but I wouldn't give myself an hour to really sit and do this stuff. So it's quite interesting.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, like we exercise with our bodies, we need to exercise our brains as well. And I think that's, you know, like that's a big muscle up there, and it's in charge of an awful lot in your body. And so really exercise it, look after it, you know, give it a massage every now and then, like, you know, it's so important, so important. And I think you know, like you say, your kind of focus is the body, and actually yourself that mind and body they've got to come together, because otherwise if you're trying to do one and you don't work with the other one, you don't get that balance.
And what was I going to say? There's hang on, I'm getting distracted by the feedback.
Oh, have you got bad feedback?
Yeah, it's just I can hear myself like a second time around.
Can you hear it now?
No, I can't hear it now.
Okay, it might have been my speakers a bit too high.
Oh, I see. All this technical stuff that we're learning.
I know, right? I'm going to be a tech whiz by the time I get out of there.
Yeah. So one thing that I say with breath work with people is that we think that it should happen automatically. So we don't, if it's a little bit hard with breath work, people are afraid of it or they won't breathe as deep. And so I have to say, you have to work your lungs, you have to work it, and it should feel like there's a bit of effort there in order to make your breathing stronger. And so people know to work the body, and but they don't know to work the breath as much. And so it's the same with you saying you have to work the mind. And I think we know this stuff already. We just need to be reminded of it by somebody else who's really interested in it. That's the thing. That's why we all need each other, because I'm really interested in fitness. You're interested in the mind.
Yeah.
We can't do it all ourselves.
I need you to tell me, come on, Marie, once you start exercising, you'll feel better. And every time I do it, I do feel better. But, you know, it's not something that comes naturally to me. It's not set into my part of living, my daily life, etc. But looking after the mind now is, because I was forced into that in a way to, you know, it's a kind of, I mean, so I cared for my son. My son was fell ill with depression about 5 years ago now. And that was a massive, massive learning curve for me, because it made me really look at what I needed to do to take care of myself, so that I could then take care of him. And I think that once I realised that actually this is all about just exercising it then became very much part of what I did. And I think, you know, I was on antidepressants for 4 years, and I came off them a year ago, and I wouldn't have done that almost a year ago. And I wouldn't have done that had I not learned all of these other tricks and the exercises for my brain. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that every day is hunky-dory and you wake up kind of raring to go. And I'm sure that's similar in the exercise world at times. You're not raring to go every day. But I know that when I'm really bad, I can kind of check myself and do my list of things that I know work for me. And that if I would just do today, then tomorrow will feel so different. Yeah.
You know, it's one thing this is why I started doing these videos, is because I realized, like I was saying, that everybody has their area of specialty or their purpose, which kind of comes through your experience, and you start to realize what you're passionate about through your own. And I've always tried to be like more of a one-man band and do it all myself. And what this is getting me to do this whole thing is, as I'm asking other people who have a specialty in a certain area, and there becomes more of a collaboration and a community. And it's like, we don't have to know it all. And we can, even if you're a professional, you can still go to somebody else and ask them their opinion. And so it's quite an interesting journey.
It is. And I think, you know, when you look at big corporations, big businesses, that there isn't one person doing it all, and if they, you know, they start out doing it all, but no one wants to do it all. You definitely want someone to do your finances, you want someone to do the admin, you know, and they have all sorts of different departments in big businesses, and why should that be any different when you're working in an area? Find those other people to kind of, you know, make your circle, and have your circle of people that you know have different expertise, and that's really helpful. Absolutely.
I think when you work for yourself or you start a business by yourself, it can be quite hard to like let go of aspects of the business. And I'm learning how to, and like you said, at the moment, it's kind of learning to let go in some way. I'm learning how to trust other people with marketing and things like that, and it does take a while, but I think that's part of this whole process of the coronavirus or COVID-19 is relinquishing some control, and also looking to others for support, and the value of community and working together. And
absolutely,
no one is above each other. That, I think that's one of the biggest things, is no one's above each other.
And that's so interesting, because actually, you know, those people that really never thought that they struggled with mental health, or, you know, kind of really had maybe weren't educated about what mental health was, people have certainly taken notice, and certainly taken note, no matter where you're coming from, no matter what background you're from, where you are in this world, whether you've got a garden or a big house or a flat or whatever, you know, we're all, yes, some things are easier than others. Certainly, you know, having some outdoor space would be easier, but if you can't get out of bed, then actually that outdoor space isn't useful for you. So, you know, it really has brought people to a level of actually, we've all got to have some understanding for one another.
And so this is slightly, I guess, controversial, but there's been a whole thing when I've been talking to my friends about the difference between like choosing mental health over physical health at the moment, because we're being asked to, particularly like people like me, to isolate yourself completely. So I'm choosing my physical health to respect the rules over potentially my mental health, and neither one is right. So when there have been people like judging other people for breaking the rules because they're allowing someone to come into their house, it's like, well, if that's somebody that's depressed and it's a way of them stopping committing suicide because they need that human touch, then who's to say? Like, there has to be some intelligence around that, I think so. And I mean, I wouldn't advocate for anyone to, you know, to not follow the guidelines, etc. But I think it's really important to know your limits, to know who you have around you, to work out how best to care for yourself, and that if you need someone, then you definitely, you know, need to kind of find out if they've got any symptoms, and have a chat even to the local GP. There are mental health guidelines. There are also mental health charities that would definitely advise you on how best to do all of those things. Some of them being Mind, Young Minds, Samaritans, etc. I can give you some contacts for mental health charities, etc. The list that I use, and that would be great if you could post that afterwards. That would be I'll put it in the information below the video for sure. Absolutely. Do that, and I can also definitely, we can do that for sure. Like you said, not advocating breaking the rules, but just saying that there is we are in a situation where one of them has to, neither is going to come out winning, or, you know, it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, the thing we've got to do is know that actually you can reach out, and it's not and that you're not going to be the only person feeling like that, and you're not going to be the first one. You probably won't be the last one. You know, I dread to think what the mental health figures are in all of this. I mean, the media has blown up an awful lot, and I was talking to a friend of mine who works for GPs and for hospitals yesterday, and she was kind of, you know, not taking away from anything that that is out there, and the people that are suffering and the difficulties that we've had. But, you know, she was saying, you know, pneumonia kills 30,000 people a year. And actually, we've got to really get a grip on this in terms of what percentage this is. And for me, I think it's really important to do that, so that we're reassuring people that you're not all going to die.
Because if you have anxiety already, or OCD around cleanliness or contamination, then potentially all of this is going to make it worse, of course. Absolutely. That's interesting.
And I think, you know, reassurance is the thing that I want to be able to do, and the thing that I certainly am kind of keeping check on people that I support, and just kind of reassuring them that, you know, we look at this from a percentage amount. The media are awful. The way that they're dealing with this is horrendous on the news. I think it, you know, it shouldn't be called news. It should be like Scary Hour or something. It should be like made into a horror movie now, because I think, you know, the things that they're covering are just not helpful. And I think that actually they should be held accountable for
but I think that
anxiety.
I think the thing that we can do the best is to do as much in the way of practice that keeps us grounded and clear-minded, so that we can, they're not going to change, but we can keep ourselves really seeing what's real, what's not, or making the decisions for ourselves rather than just repeating what we read in the news, being able to see all perspectives. And that starts with a physical practice, a meditation practice, working your mind with the things that you use, and keeping that what's it called, sovereignty of ourselves.
Definitely.
Are there any kind of so you talked about journaling, is there any other things that you could recommend?
So I do mindfulness or meditation. I think people get scared, and also it's been very much a buzzword, like mindfulness, you know, and it's kind of, it's just about sitting and just taking some breaths, really like seeing where you're at. So
becoming a little bit detached.
But just kind of maybe detached to everything else, but a little bit more attached to who you are and actually what's going on. Because like you say, keeping our own sovereignty and how we feel, because often we can have things that trigger our anxiety, and that's from outside sources. So actually we just need to kind of work out what we feel and what our experiences are, truly what's going on in comparison to what the news is saying is going on. So I think mindfulness and meditation does give you that time to just sit, have a few breaths, and kind of really just calm your mind a little bit and stop negative Norman going on in your brain. And actually it's proven that straight after you wake up in the morning is the best time to try and do that, because you haven't got all the negative thoughts. So putting positive ones in for the day is like a really good idea first thing in the morning, and also last thing at night, before you're going to bed, and just doing some deep breathing. If you can't do it on your own, there are loads of things online, and you know, if you just type in mindfulness videos 5 minutes, then lots of them pop up. There's also an app called Headspace, which is brilliant. That will even set like alarms for you throughout the day, where you could just stop and breathe, and that keeps you kind of accountable to yourself, and to check in with yourself a few times a day.
Okay, great. Just making notes there with that. Are there any kind of final things that you wanted to add before we sign off?
I would just say good food and drink lots of water. Like, don't underestimate what water can do for your brain, your body, and yeah.
And energetically, water is very purifying, isn't it? So
absolutely, and also, you know, we need that flushing around our system so that it kind of brings clarity for us as well.
And like you said, there's a body-mind connection. So if you're detoxifying the body, then of course it's going to detoxify the mind. Like,
absolutely,
all connected.
Exactly. And yeah, just putting good things into your body, good food into your body. Keep your fruit and veg up, because that's all, you know, nourishing food for your body and your mind. You'd be amazed what a difference good diet and drinking enough water can do for you. So I'd say, and also reach out to people. I've got a Facebook page called Depression Changes Minds. My email address is dcmuk@mail.com if anyone's got any questions or wants any links to get some help with their own mental health, or is interested in needing some or wanting some life coaching. I also do workshops on early signs and symptoms of mental health, etc. So yeah, just reach out, and if it's not to me, reach out to a friend or Samaritans or someone if you're struggling with your mental health. It's exactly the same with the rest of your body. If you had a broken leg, you certainly wouldn't sit there and do nothing about it. So don't feel like you shouldn't do something about your mind. It's exactly the same.
I'll put all of the information of that below as well, so anybody that wants to reach out to you can.
Thank you.
And definitely would recommend that for you, for that kind of, like I was saying, anchoring and that support at the moment with the one-to-one life coaching. It was very helpful for me. Thank you.
It's been lovely.
And I'll